Right now, there's an invisible war happening inside your head. And while you think you're calling the shots, external forces, algorithms, social patterns, and artificial intelligence are learning to hijack every decision you make. The real question is, who's actually running your mind? Why the greatest battle of the 21st century is happening inside your skull. Let's start with something uncomfortable. At this very second, you believe you're in control, that your choices are yours, that when you decide to buy something, close a deal, or say yes to an offer, it's you making the call. But what if I told you most of your decisions were already programmed long before you realized it? And I'm not talking conspiracy theories. I'm talking about behavioral science, applied neuroscience, and military strategies adapted for the business world. Think about ancient Rome. The Stoics understood something crucial. You can't control what happens to you, but you can master how you respond. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. He knew the real war was internal. And this is where everything shifts. Because if you don't master your own mental patterns, someone or something will do it for you. And when that happens, you'll believe you're choosing freely when you're actually just reacting to programmed triggers. But here's what almost nobody notices. Mental discipline isn't something you achieve once and forget. It's a daily war. Tibetan monks spend decades meditating, not to reach some mystical enlightenment, but to develop total control over automatic reactions. They know an untrained mind is a wild horse. And in the world of sales, an untrained mind is a salesperson who reacts emotionally, panics at objections, loses negotiations through anxiety. The samurai didn't just master the sword, they mastered the mind. The Bushido Code wasn't about blind courage, it was about absolute mental control under extreme pressure. A samurai trained to empty the mind of noise, fear, hesitation, because they knew, whoever hesitates, dies. And in today's sales and negotiations, whoever hesitates, loses. The difference is, today you're not fighting a physical blade. You're fighting algorithms that study your clicks, your pauses, your micro-behaviors. Only here's the detail most people miss. AI isn't trying to defeat you. It's trying to know you better than you know yourself. Every time you negotiate, every time you sell, every time you make a decision, you leave traces. And those traces are being mapped. Major tech companies already know you're more influenceable on Tuesday afternoons, that you impulse buy when you're tired, that you give in during negotiations when you feel rushed. And this opens a door few dare to cross. What if the real difference between high performance and mediocrity isn't technique, knowledge, or experience, but simply who controls the operating system of their own mind? How elite negotiators reprogram their opponent's brain without them noticing. Now, let's go deeper. Ever notice how the best negotiators never seem like they're negotiating? They chat, ask questions, tell stories, and suddenly the deal is closed. And you didn't even realize when you said yes. That's not luck. That's not natural charisma. That's behavioral engineering. And it has roots and strategies from unexpected places. Let me give you an example. The FBI has a specialized crisis negotiation unit. These people deal with kidnappers, terrorists, armed individuals in extreme situations. And the first thing they learn isn't how to convince someone, it's how to make someone feel heard. Sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Because when you feel truly heard, your defenses drop, your brain relaxes, and in that state, you become far more open to suggestions. Elite negotiators do exactly this. They don't sell, they mirror. They reflect back what you said, with small modifications. And your brain interprets that as validation. You start trusting without knowing why. It's the same technique NCIS investigators use in interrogations. They don't pressure. They create a sense of alliance. We both want to solve this, right? And suddenly, the person is cooperating. But that's not the strangest part. The strangest part is that this works because our brain is lazy. It loves shortcuts. It loves patterns. And when someone gives us the illusion of control, we bite the bait. Think about Steve Jobs. He never asked, "Do you want to buy this?" He created a narrative where you already were the kind of person who used that product. For those who think different, It wasn't about the iPhone. It was about identity. And identity sells more than any logical argument. Ethical hackers do the same thing, but with security systems. They don't try to break in through brute force. They study human behavior. They know the easiest backdoor isn't technological, it's psychological. A well-written email, a convincing phone call, and done. The person hands over the password thinking they're helping. And this is where everything changes again. Because in the world of sales and negotiations, you're not just selling a product or closing a contract. You're selling a narrative. You're creating a reality where the other person sees themselves making that decision. And if you can do that before they notice, you're not manipulating, you're leading. Only there's a paradox few understand. To master someone else's mind, you first need to master your own. Because if you enter a negotiation desperate, anxious, afraid of losing, the other person will sense it. They'll smell your weakness like a shark smells blood and water, and at that moment, you've already lost. And this opens an even deeper door. What if the real skill isn't convincing the other person, but becoming so internally solid that your presence already communicates authority? What if AI already sells better than you and what to do so you don't become obsolete? Now, let's get to the part that scares most people. Artificial intelligence is already learning to sell, and it's learning fast, very fast. Today's chatbots can already identify objections, adapt pitches, and close sales without human intervention. And the most disturbing part, they don't get tired, don't get emotional, don't have ego, they just execute. But here's the thing, AI is good at patterns. It's excellent at processing data, identifying trends, and replicating behaviors that work. But it doesn't understand deep human context. It doesn't understand pain, desire, visceral fear. And that's where you still have an advantage, but only if you know how to play the game at the right level. Let me give you a military analogy. During World War II, the Allies created a strategy called tactical deception. They didn't try to hide their movements. They created so many false signals that the enemy didn't know what was real. And that's exactly what you need to do with AI. Not try to compete in its game, but play a game it doesn't understand yet. Major tech CEOs understand this. Elon Musk, for example, doesn't compete with AI. He creates AI. But he also understands that the human mind has something no machine can replicate: trained intuition. He makes decisions that seem crazy, but are based on years of reading invisible patterns. And that can't be programmed yet. But what if you're not a billionaire genius? What if you're a salesperson, a negotiator, an entrepreneur trying to survive in this new world? Here's the answer. You need to train your mind like an elite athlete trains their body. You need to develop cognitive resilience. You need to learn to read micro-expressions, identify body language, feel the energy of a room. Because these are variables AI doesn't yet process with mastery. Elite chess players do this. They don't memorize moves. They feel the board. Magnus Carlsen, the greatest chess player today, says many times he doesn't know why a move is right. He just feels it. And that intuition comes from thousands of hours of exposure, training, failures. And this is where everything connects. Because mastering your mind isn't about having superpowers. It's about having more control over your reactions than any algorithm can predict. It's about becoming strategically unpredictable. It's about being human so intensely that no machine can imitate you. And this opens the final door. What if the future isn't about competing with AI, but about becoming so deeply human that you become irreplaceable? If this is making sense to you, drop the word control in the comments. And tell me, what's the biggest challenge you face trying to maintain mental control in high-pressure negotiations? Because this exchange could change everything. And if this video is opening your mind, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The investigation is just beginning. How? Winners don't win through force, but through strategic invisibility. Let's close with something few people realize. The greatest winners in history never seemed threatening. They didn't arrive shouting, imposing, forcing. They moved in the shadows, adjusted perceptions, planted ideas. And by the time you noticed, the game was already won. That's real power. That's invisible. High performance. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. And that's not poetic metaphor. It's pure strategy, because when you need to fight, you've already lost part of the advantage. The ideal is to shape the battlefield so that victory is inevitable before confrontation even begins. And in the world of sales and negotiations, this means the following: you don't convince. You create conditions where the other person convinces themselves. You don't pressure. You guide. And the person thinks it was their idea all along. That's genius. And it's trainable. Major international negotiators do this. They don't sit at the table demanding. They create narratives. They frame the situation so that the solution they want seems like the only logical one. And that's not dirty manipulation. It's perception leadership. But the most unsettling part comes now, because while you're trying to master these techniques, there are people and systems doing exactly this to you. Every time you see a perfectly targeted ad, every time a social network shows you exactly what you want to see, every time a negotiation seems to be going your way, but in the end, you conceded more than you intended, someone read your patterns and used them against you. The Roman legion didn't conquer the world through brute force. They conquered through discipline, strategy, ability to adapt, and in the end, they shaped Western civilization without most people realizing it to this day. That's the level of impact a trained mind can have. And that's why mastering your mind, your sales, and your negotiations isn't about tricks. It's about becoming someone who operates at a level of consciousness most people don't reach. It's about seeing the game while others are playing. It's about being the architect of your own reality before someone or something draws the map for you. And this doesn't end here, because the more you understand these patterns, the more you realize there's always a deeper layer, always a hidden secret, always a new door. And those who master this art never stop digging. If you made it here, drop the word invisible in the comments. And answer: have you ever noticed a moment when you thought you were in control, but later realized you were being guided? Hit that like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to wake up to this reality. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment.